This video from Casio, we're taking an overall look at the check or tab function available on the SR-C550 register. So as standard on the machine, you don't have tabs, you have dormant cashiers, but it's possible to reprogram the machine to have a basic tab or open check system. The system is limited, so there's a total transactional lines available of 1,000. So you can have 20 tabs open at one particular time, but providing that they don't go over about 50 lines per transaction, because you'll hit the transaction limit. So yeah, what we'll do is, this machine's been set up with the tab function on it, so let's take a look at it. I've got more specific videos showing you how to program this function, which will appear at the end of the video, and then how to do specific individual things if you don't want to watch a whole 10-minute video on the function. This video is more an overall explainer. So if you're in the reg mode, if you've got tabs set up, you won't have cashiers, so there's no need to log in. What you do have to do is, when you first enter a tab or open a tab, you have to press the number at the start. You can't add items in and then say I want these to go under tab number 3. You have to start the transaction with the tab number. So to open tab 1, and then the new old key. I've already got some items entered under that tab, so I can add them to it. Or if I didn't want to add anything, I could have just pressed the layaway key, which is MB, and that will then service that tab away. So let's open tab 2 by pressing 2, new and old, and then adding in some items. I've got some open PLUs on this machine, more than one it seems. So you can keep an eye on how many lines you've got open in any given tab. So this one, we've got 31 lines open in the transaction so far. Again, the layaway button is here, so you press MB and that services the check. You can then, when you've got checks open, you can still put sales through that are just cash sales. You just ring those off in the normal fashion. Again, if you want to open another check, it's the check number, so number 3 followed by new old, and that brings the check up. It's a brand new check because there's no information in it. And again, you can enter items in. Processing a sale is basically exactly the same, so it's just basically pressing all your buttons, and then when you've entered all the items that they currently want, you press MB to lay it away. And again, if you want to go back into a check, say in check number 2's come back and they want to add some items, again it's 2, new old, and then you add in the items that they now want. It's fairly simple how it works, but the limitation of it is the transaction lines. So if you're working in a place that has 50 tables regularly open at any one time, then I'd be saying, well, this machine isn't suitable for you, because you're going to hit that transaction limit fairly soon. But if you're a bar or small restaurant that has 15, 20 tables, then you can get away with it. So there we go, lay that one away with NB. So we've now got several tables open. What I'll show you is, if you enter the items in first, so there we go, we've entered some items, and then we decide we want to put that on a tab. So say we want to open check number 5, you can't do that. You have to open the check at the start. So you'd need to go subtotal, cancel those items off, and then open the check at the start, and then add in all the items. Lay the items away by pressing MB, and then you repeat the process for each of the checks that you have open. This is part how to use video, but also like a bit of a sales demonstration if you're thinking about ordering the machine and having it programmed with the tab function. It is important to be aware that this machine isn't a touchscreen machine. It hasn't got an unlimited memory, so you can see I've now got 7 checks open. I've had no problems so far, but they're quite small checks. I'll just open one. I'll show you the limit you can have on an individual checks, although there's 1,000 lines you can have overall on the check file system, there is a limit to how many you can have on an individual check. So you can't have one check open with just and have like 1,000 lines on it. There's a limit of about 110 lines for an individual check, regardless of how many checks are open in total. There's a report you can run to see how many, if you're unsure about how many checks you've got open at any one time. If you turn the key around to X and then go down to open check, cash amount tend, all, it'll print out a report of each individual. Well, it's a summary of each check, so we can got check 1, the total, 2, 3, 5, 6 and 7, and we've got a total amount, give you a total amount for each check, and then an overall grand total that is currently assigned to the checks. If you want to have a look at an individual bill, again you can turn the key back to reg. Let's say we want to have a look at check 2, you just press 2 and then the post receipt guess button, and it will print out the details of that check so you can see exactly what they've had. If there's a problem with a check, so they've bought something back or something's been, you want to void something off before you print their bill out, that's possible. You press the check number, so say we want to remove one of the items on check 2, we go to new old, that brings the check up, and then the same way that you'd void an item during a normal sales transaction, you simply arrow down until you find the line you want to remove, press cash amount tend, and it'll void that item. You can then either, if you're finishing the transaction or finishing the check they're paying now, you can obviously cash the transaction off, or you can simply lay it away again by pressing MB. Okay, I think that's most of the basics, but if we go back into the, I was opening one check up to show you how many lines you could have before you start getting a problem. So I think it was check number 7, so if we go back into check number 7, so 7, new old, okay, so this has got 94. I suspect when we get to about 110 it's going to have an issue with that. So I'll save it again at 108, so up to 108 no problem. Reopen it, yeah, it's got an issue with it. So basically when you get to this point you've got to cash, you've either got to void the check, which you don't want to do, or you've got to cash it off. So that's the limitation of it. If you regularly have big tables eating where they're going to have more than 100 lines per transaction, this isn't the machine for you because of that limitation. You kind of got to think, I can only have a certain amount of checks open at any one time, ideally no more than 10 or 15, and then regardless of how many I've got open, I don't want any, I'm not going to be able to have more than 100 lines per transaction. Okay, so if you're interested in setting the function up on your 550, I've got another video which will be appearing on screen now showing you how to do that. It's quite a complicated process, and it's also, you basically have to wipe the machine from scratch. So if you've already got the machine and had it programmed, you got to think about it really, about whether you want to do that or not. But that's all explained in the video, and I've got shorter videos explaining each individual process, how to void an item from a check, how to print a bill out, how to open a check, how to cancel a check and all that sort of thing. There'll be a playlist on the open check function on the 550 which you're welcome to watch. You can also subscribe to this YouTube channel or visit casiohelp.co.uk for more. Thanks for watching.